You're listening to the A Bit From Within podcast with Felicia Marty. You know, we're heading into 2022. How do we want to spend our time? Do we want to spend it scrolling on our, phones? Do we want to spend it with people? Do we want to spend it out in nature? Do we want to spend it exploring or cooking or organizing? What matters to you? Hi there, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me today for a new episode of the A Bit From Within podcast. My name is Felicia, and for those of you who don't know me or aren't familiar with me, I am a business owner here in the Denver area. I run a wedding photography business, and then I also run this project, A Bit From Within, which is all about feeling those pieces of what's going on inside of you, connecting to them, and taking the time every day to really connect with yourself and take care of yourself. We live in this culture where, we're constantly being slammed with all of this self-care information, wellness. And yet we are still feeling so sick and so tired and so overwhelmed. And so that's what I'm here to do, is just share some of the tools, things that I'm trying out in my own life to take care of myself, to try to navigate this crazy world, especially right now during the holidays and as we come to the end of another year. And I'm just so excited to be able to have this platform to share with you. So I'm going to be totally transparent, and today I really didn't have a big message coming into this. And part of the reason why is that over the last week, I've been getting ready to take my first ever kind of vacation from my business. I've never done this before. I mean, I've taken off a week here or there, maybe a couple days, but I'm usually still plugged in, checking the emails, getting back to people, even if it's just hey, I'm out of the office until X day, I'm still partially plugged in. But this time I am taking 4 weeks off. I can't even believe that I am fortunate enough to do that. Like I realize what a gift that is. But this is the first time. I've been running my business for 7 years now. And it's the first time I've ever been able to do something like this, even during the slow season. And I do have to say, it took a lot more effort and kind of me exerting myself to make sure that this 4 weeks ahead for me is going to be able to be kind of sacred. And I had to say no a lot, which was and still is very hard. I'm still getting, text messages that are like, hey, can we sneak this photo shoot in? Or do you know somebody who can do this? And I'm just having to breathe through those and say no. And everyone's been so supportive when I'm saying, hey, I'm so sorry, I wish I could help, but I'm actually taking a break right now. And it feels really weird. So officially, I signed out of all of my inboxes on Saturday night. And I just had to kind of do that for myself, because I knew that if I didn't, that I would keep checking it. And my assistant is so lovely. She actually really encouraged me. She's like, I don't even think you should check in once a week. I think just trust me. If there's something you need to know about, I will let you know. Otherwise, just work on staying in your own sacred space. And I really appreciated that. I think I needed that from her, just that little bit of permission that she's got it, and that she'll reach out to me if something needs to be discussed. And oh my gosh, so that was Saturday night, and now it is Monday night. So it's been almost 48 hours. And I feel so freaking uncomfortable, to be honest with you. I am not the kind of business owner that can walk away very easily. And I honestly don't know what that's like. I don't feel I don't know if there's ever been a time, even when I worked for other people, that I would leave work and feel like I had so much going on in my personal life that that what I was doing for a job or like as my career wasn't something that I brought home with me. And then 7 years ago when I started my business, it really has become my baby. And I was kind of thinking about this recently as I've been really trying to find transitions in my own life and prepare for changes in my future. And as I start to think about, the possibility of starting a family, that really my business has been my first baby. And it's obviously, it's not you can't, I know that a business and a baby are two different things. And I'm sure that the love that I would have for a child is much different than the love that I have for my business. But as far as something that you care about and you take care of and you are, trying to raise, I'm trying to raise my business, and you invest time into, my business has been my baby. And it has been a constant effort of love and something that I have constantly been striving to work on. And it's something that has meant so much to me. It is also something that I have hid in for a long time, for probably 7 years. And it is interesting because when I started my business, it was during a very, very crazy time in my life. It was definitely born out of a place of fear in a lot of ways. I was having a very tumultuous kind of ending with the job that I had been at. And it was like the universe was like, I waited into the point where it all exploded in my face. And then I was just like, okay, I had my back was so far up against the wall that I felt like I had no other choice but to start the business. And so I did, and I just invested so much of my heart and my soul into it and grew it from a part-time job to my full-time job to now having a team and having an employee and all of this stuff. And I'm very proud of myself. But lately I've just been sitting with this idea, and actually I first thought of this I think it was a couple months ago when I was sharing a bit from within on the podcast, that I realized that I really never did have a plan, like a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan. And I'm feeling the effects of that now as I sit here, and I'm really starting to figure out, okay, well, where do I want this to go? Because I don't want to just be on this single ladder where I just have to do the next step and the next step. Because in a way, it's almost like, and there's nothing wrong with any of these things, right? Like what I was about ready to say and what I'm going to say, I know there's nothing wrong with this. But there's, I think, something to stop and consider. If you're doing things because you truly want to do them and you desire them, or because it's just the next step. So for me, having, a situation where I couldn't work for somebody else anymore, and then realizing, well, other people are starting their own photography companies, so I'll just do that and I'll just figure out that. And then I kind of did a lot of what I knew from other people and then grew some of what I learned and then collaborated, and you just take the next step. It's not like I had a degree in starting a photography business or a degree in any of what I do now for a living. I mean, I have a degree in theater, in directing and production development. So there are many aspects in my degree that I do use in what I do, but they're not a straight translation. Anyway, me doing all of those things with my job, it would be the same as a long time ago when, and sometimes now still, people, you reach some point in your life and you're like, okay, I'm just going to get married and start a family. And because that's the next step. Like, oh, we've been dating for 2 years. Now we get married. Now we have kids. And not even really thinking about, is this what I truly want? And being that person who grew up in a very I went to Christian schools from second grade until eighth grade. I was always in that church environment. I think there was definitely a part of my subconscious that thought like, that is what you do. You're going to grow up. I didn't even really think about like having to go to college. I don't even remember when that first really became part of my life plan, and probably until I was in high school. But I just figured at some point, like pretty early on, like I would meet the one and we'd get married and we'd have kids, and that's how it would be. And I didn't really think about what the rest of my life would look like. And I wonder now what I would have thought about if I had gone back and given myself, if I had given myself other options. And that's something, it's just like I always just did the next thing that made sense, and I wasn't really thinking past farther than that. And like I said, I know there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not sitting here with regret. I'm more just sitting here now at this place in my life where I do feel like I'm kind of between acts, and I'm really trying to figure things out for my future, and I don't have all of those puzzle pieces. And I'm just kind of trying to get back to what makes sense to ask. And I feel like the only thing that I can ask myself is like, well, who are you? And who do you want to be? And what kind of life do you want to live? And of course, those things aren't only based on a job or a career or running a business, but those things could be part of who you are. And right now, I just feel a little extra lost. And it sucks to admit that, because there's always this pressure to feel like you have your shit together. That's how I feel. I feel like I have so much pressure to have my shit together. Even now, like being on this break, I feel like I'm still like on edge right now, kind of just, is everything taken care of? Like, did I forget anything? And there's this other part of me that's like really irritable right now, because I am just craving space. Like, I just want space, and I'm so glad to take up this space. And yet there's all this pressure, and it is, totally pressure that I'm putting on myself. But, like, I feel like when I'm like, I'm on a vacation right now, like I have so much time, I could do whatever I want. I feel also like there's this feeling that I have to do everything that I don't normally get to do, right? It's like, well, I want to see this person, and this person said they wanted to hang out, and then I wanted to do this thing with my mom, or I wanted to do this. And then it's like, I know that if I act on all of this, that I'm not going to get what I carved out this time to do, which is to sit in the discomfort of where I am right now, and to really let the parts of myself that have been just so run through like the ringer. Like, I have been put through the ringer this year. We've been through so much. There has been so much stress. There has been just a lot. You guys, a lot of you who've been listening for a long time now, like there's just been so much that has happened this year. I'm just needing to heal. And you can't heal when you're distracting yourself. And it's important to say that, because do you want to know what I've been doing the last 48 hours? I have not been sitting still. In fact, even leading up to the official deadline of unplugging, I found myself just kind of wired, feeling like I need to get stuff in order. And I can't help but think about my own like astrology with this, because I am a Virgo rising and I'm a Taurus moon, and a lot of those, they're both earth element signs that just have to do with needing structure and stability and organization and having a plan and a routine and all of these things. And I feel like all of that kind of earth energy has been really manifesting in my life, because I like redid the closet, and then I had to set up my office in a new way. And then we've been trying to work on the house, and all day today, that's what we did. We were running errands, we were installing a ceiling fan, we were getting things, the things that I have wished I had any time or space for, actually done. But it's also a distraction, right? It's like, and now instead of my job being my job, it's like my house is my job. And I am being gracious with myself because I knew that there would be a transitional period. But what I'm trying to do is kind of allow myself to go through the transition and then also move into the spaciousness. And, I don't know if it'll take, a couple days or maybe a week or so just to settle in. But I want to get to a place where I'm just back to a slower pace inside of my energetic field and inside of my body. Do you think it's possible in this world that we live in? I feel like everything is so fast, fast, fast. It's like text messages are flying in and news is flying by and things are just go, go, go all the time. And, this time of year is always a little bit extra hard because with the amount of daylight that we have it's getting darker and darker and the days are shorter and shorter right now leading up until next week. It just feels like the day goes by so fast. And then I don't know if you've caught yourself saying any of this, or if you have people saying it to you, but it's just like everywhere you go, it's like, oh my gosh, Christmas is next week. What are we gonna, how, like, are you got all your Christmas shopping done? Or is this done? Like, what are your plans? What is this? Da, da, da. It's like a million questions. And I can tell you that I feel so exhausted with the questions. Do any of you ever feel that where it's just like, what would be so nice is to just sit in conversation with somebody and not have them pelt you with a million questions. Oh, that is what I'm really needing right now. And I almost feel embarrassed or ashamed or I guess just bad admitting that on the podcast because I want to be nice. But there are some times in our lives when like asking somebody too many questions can be so overwhelming. It's like we don't have all of the answers. And even if we have the answers, it doesn't mean that we want to share the answers. I've kind of been feeling that a little bit lately myself. It's just like, I don't know if I have any of the answers. In fact, actually, maybe I'm so annoyed because I know I don't have the answers. So that's something that I'm sitting with right now. But I don't want to sit here and use this entire time sharing a bit from within just to say, talk about the transitional period and talk about the tiredness or the begrudging feelings around people asking questions. What I do want to speak to and encourage is that we feel as though we can take whatever time we can carve out and set the parameters that we need to show up for ourselves. And maybe that's, I'm glad that I got to that point because maybe that's part of what I'm feeling is like I'm feeling a little bit behind in the spaciousness that I need for myself. So if you can relate to that at all, or you're just, maybe you're on that track, like you're not too burnt out yet, but you could be leading there, especially this time of year. What does it look like to carve out space for ourselves? Is it, sitting in the quiet? Is it taking a nap? Is it getting on your yoga mat, or taking a bath? Or is it, is it unplugging? Is it getting out into nature? Is it a couple days away? And maybe these are the questions we really need to be asking ourselves is like, how do we really want to be spending our time? And for me, it's really easy to think about that around vacations, right? Like around Christmas, maybe you have some time off. Like, how do I want to spend that time? But it also makes me think that like how interesting that we might be able to ask ourselves that question at the beginning of a new year. We're heading into 2022. How do we want to spend our time? Do we want to spend it scrolling on our, phones? Do we want to spend it with people? Do we want to spend it out in nature? Do we want to spend it exploring or cooking or organizing? What matters to you? And it's kind of hard to sit with that question because I don't know about you, but I am very out of practice with asking myself those kind of questions and then following up with it. So if you're anything like me, maybe this is an important time to really, really sit with this. And in fact, I am just realizing as I'm sitting here that both my mom and I, we've been going back and forth about Christmas. And I'm like, I think I just need to sit down and I really need to like journal. What do I want to do for Christmas this year? For our family, it's a little bit different because this will be our first Christmas without my sister physically here because she is living in a different state now, and she's actually going to be on her own vacation during Christmas. So that's going to be awesome for her, but we won't have her there. And so there's just this different feeling around. In fact, my parents showed me a picture. My dad had texted me a picture of their Christmas tree, and it was this like tiny little tree. It seems like it's barely taller than a suitcase. And it kind of made me sad at first because, there's so much with Christmas that is tied to, decorations and things like that. And yet at the same time, like, I understand because I suppose that the holiday spirit does take an amount of energy. It takes an amount of, like, how much energy do you have to put out there to make all the decorations and make all of the plans and do all of those things? And I know that I'm not feeling that energy right now, and I really wonder. You'll have to maybe like write in or let me know if it hits you. Like, I'm just feeling like I don't have that much energy for all of that right now. I mean, we do have our Christmas tree up, and I did spend some time this weekend putting some decorations up in the front of our house. So there's a feeling of festivity. But in a way, like, I just still feel like I have one foot in summer, which feels crazy to say. But I feel like just this year has been a lot. And, I guess perhaps that helps me. I in a way, I'm always wanting to remember how I'm feeling right now, just to have compassion for other people who are maybe not so in the Christmas spirit themselves or in that holiday spirit. And also maybe to give ourselves permission that each year can be a little different. You don't have to put up your big tree each year. If you want to do a little tree, great. If you want to not do decorations, great. If you want to skip that cookie making ritual, great. If you want to start some new stuff and you're feeling super energized, that's also awesome. But maybe we just need to give ourselves permission to be where we're at. Gosh, it feels good to say that because maybe that's what I've been going on and on about for the past 20 minutes. Normally I spend some time during these episodes also talking about the astrology, what's happening. But I don't have that quite ready right now. I'm getting ready this week to have fun putting together a full moon guide as we have our full moon on the 18th. I think that's Saturday. But if you are interested in all of that, take a look at my website, abitfromwithin.com. You can download the full moon guide there, or if you're in the Patreon, I'll be sending it out later this week. And then next week, I'll share a little bit more about what's going on astrologically and talk about the sun moving into Capricorn on the winter solstice next week. But I think I'm going to just keep this episode short and sweet, just kind of how I'm feeling right now, honor where I'm at. And thank you again for just holding space with me. You know, it's strange because as we recorded this, I'm alone, but as the words come out, it's like I can feel you receiving them where you are when you're listening to this. And it just helps me know I'm not alone. And I hope that you feel, no matter what you've related to that I've shared, that you're not alone either. So let's end with a card reading, shall we? Let's use this Super Attractor deck by Gabriella Bernstein. Let's see here. What card will we get? Okay, this says, I let an inner sense of quiet multiply each day as I strengthen my faith in the love of the universe. I love that so much. I could just close my eyes and drink that in. I'll say it one more time. I let an inner sense of quiet multiply each day as I strengthen my faith in the love of the universe. That's beautiful. It feels nice too, doesn't it? That sense of quiet multiplying. You can tell I'm in a more quiet mood. That is totally okay. So maybe we'll let that affirmation kind of spread through us and out into the world. So with that, I will leave you to it. Enjoy the rest of your week ahead. Take good care of yourself, and I will talk to you next week.